Adam in Napa, behind the patch. What's up?
Hey, what's going on? How you guys doing today?
I feel like I'm losing a battle here. I thought Hard Knocks was good last night. A plus. I had like 25 things I liked in the show, and feel like everyone else I know is saying it sucked.
You know what? I thought it was one of those episodes that I think every year the first episode just kind of sets up a bunch of storylines. I don't think it's always the best, most entertaining episode, but I definitely thought there were some highlights and kind of setting up some things that could happen later on. Of course, my biggest complaint is there was not a whole lot of focus on the punter competition, and I think that's the biggest storyline at camp.
Well, it's probably coming.
Yeah, I hope so.
All right, what'd you
I just
like?
want like 20 minutes of it per episode, though.
I know. Well, you're a punting hoe. We know that.
Yeah, true.
What did you like?
Well, certainly I liked, a lot of Jonathan Abram. I mean, I think the more you have him on, the better. I liked, a lot of the looks at, kind of Gruden and his, attitude and the way that he fires up the team a little bit. And certainly the horse scene, I thought was one of the better scenes we've seen in a while on Hard Knocks.
Right. Now, what I liked about the way they featured Gruden, because they didn't overdo it, and a lot of people are like, you know what, screw this, just put Gruden on the whole time. You see all sides of John Gruden where he's cool and corny, but then like at the end, I don't know if John Abram was being a smartass, but he kept going on and on about being able to hit people in practice, and Gruden's like, all right, enough. Like, I'm being serious here. You're going to go lift weights. So you see both ends of Gruden like, I'll have some fun, but I'm not jerking around here.
Yeah, I got to tell you, that scene was actually quite a bit of source of discussion today around camp with a lot of the media people, and some people took it the way that you did. I looked at it as Gruden kind of like, I thought he loved it. I thought he liked the attitude of Abram. I thought he liked, getting physical and, intimidating the guys a little bit and announcing his presence. And I thought it was his way of being like, listen, I like what you're doing. Just tone it down a notch. I don't think he ever got really, frustrated with him or fed up with him or anything. And right. I thought it kind of showed a good relationship between Gruden and Abram. And it seems to me that Gruden just loves the kid.
And by the way, this is why the show is good, because last year, didn't you and I debate about Hugh Jackson and Baker Mayfield discussion? And I thought Baker Mayfield came off as a disrespectful jackass. Other people are like, hey, you as a clown. Why is he letting him talk to him that way?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of different ways you can interpret it. And, you remember last year with Hugh Jackson and the Todd Haley scene and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
And, certainly that has now come up and been discussed again because Hugh Jackson is talking about it. And Hugh Jackson talked about it last week that he had the right to cut that out. The coaches are able to do that. They can watch the episodes before they come on. And Hugh Jackson decided to keep that in. And he talked about that last week, about keeping that scene in. And it seems like Hugh Jackson thought that scene made Haley look terrible. And a lot of people took it as Hugh Jackson looking terrible.
Candy, I want you to bring up what Ann Killian said, because she ripped the first episode. Why? She thought there should be a lot more mention of Incognito and his problems, and also not glorify the Raiders so much, and mention that, hey, they have a terrible history recently. Basically what we wanted to get at, right? That Ann Killian was saying?
I think you covered most of it there. And also, if you need me to jump in, I'm happy to. But, and also that no mention of the Raiders moving to Vegas either, which I think kind of jumps out to some people here. It's not like Ann Killian was alone. I saw Tim Kawakami and some other Bay Area media who weren't exactly in love with it. Like, Adam, did you feel like there were some obvious things left out of this Hard Knocks?
Oh, 1,000,000%. I think the Incognito situation is the biggest representation of that. I mean, how do they address it? They said he's been through some dark times, and I mean, they were kind of just really, soft playing the incidents that he's been through. But I mean, when you watch it, you also have to remember, like, this is not a true documentary in the sense that the Raiders have Final Cut. And, I talked about it yesterday that John Gruden said he did not exercise that. He did not watch the episode, but Mike Mayock did. And their director of PR, Will Kiss, he also did. He had some approval on that as well. So, listen, the Raiders get to watch the episode and decide what's in and what isn't. And I think that people that are looking for any kind of negativity and, casting Incognito in a fair light is not going to happen. It's going to be a very positive view of not only him, but the rest of the team as well. They're not going to allow that, negative side to really be played out if they have Final Cut on the episode.
By the way, for all you bums out there, and we're talking to Adam Hill, Napa, Behind the Patch, your buddy Gelkin tweeted out the numbers. almost 100,000 more viewers for this first episode over the Browns from a year ago, and actually the highest numbers for the first episode since 2010.
Yeah, since which team, Steve?
My Jets.
Yeah, your Jets.
Let's get a G-damn snack.
But of course, as I was just writing that up actually, and I mentioned, that's also that's a Rex Ryan driven show where like there was so much promo going into that about some of the things that happened with Rex Ryan on that first episode that I think that really created a lot of hype around that episode and got people excited about it. But yeah, in this case, I think a lot of people were excited about the Raiders. I don't think you can say that the ratings determine that people liked the episode. We'll find out next week how people felt about it by how much of that audience they're able to retain. But certainly, I think the Raiders are a big draw and a big enough storyline just on their own because of the franchise to get people to tune into that first episode. It's whether people stay around for episode 2. And I think there's a lot more things that they can still go into that they haven't really addressed yet at all. Like, will they show whatever really did happen with Antonio Brown? And that's, something that we didn't see yesterday. And I think the team kind of made that decision. And I don't know how much of the cameras were able to catch and how much they actually know, but we didn't really get into that at all.
Has the paper put you on the cryotherapy beat or the macerated feet beat?
Well, certainly we're all on the cryotherapy beat right now, trying to learn as much about it as we can and figure that out. But, there is some speculation that didn't happen in the United States either. I think there's a lot still to learn.
The French. It's the fault of the French again.
Yes. I didn't know that was out there. So, yeah. But, yeah, it was, I think there's a lot to learn about exactly what happened with Antonio Brown in that situation, and I think that is really what everybody is kind of focused on right now. And it's kind of gotten, I don't know where people are on that because I feel like every single day, all of us are just chasing Antonio Brown stories and trying to get the latest information. And every day it's like, okay, you guys ran this play, but how would you run it differently if Antonio Brown was out there?
Right.
How much is it affecting your offense to not have him out there on the reps? And you saw John Gruden get very frustrated with that yesterday. And, today with the joint practice against the Rams, you got to see the offense. And then afterwards it was like, okay, well, your offense did this well, but what would it have changed if Antonio Brown was out there? I feel like it's getting monotonous every day, but at the same time, I feel like that's what people are interested about this.
Oh, no way. It's the NFL, man. And now this Brown thing with the feet. This is a gigantic story. I thought one of the other things at Hard Knocks, it was actually a feather in Antonio Brown's cap. Now that we've seen how bad his feet are, that he either burnt them or whatever this maceration is. There was a moment in Hard Knocks. There were a couple of moments. And again, this is the creative editing, but there are a couple of moments where you see one of the coaches and then Gruden himself are like, dude, dial it down. All right, dial it down. And Brown's like, no, I got to send a message. And for people out there who want to annihilate Antonio Brown, his feet are blanked up. And he still was out there working his what's off.
Yeah, and I'm sure that people will find a way to criticize that as well and say, and again, preface it by, you're right, that is what they wanted to show. That's what the team wanted to show. That's what Antonio Brown said when the cameras were on and what the people around him said when the cameras were on. So you got to, look at everything in that light. But you're right. I think when you watch it, you come away with a pretty positive attitude about, his work ethic. And that's what you've heard about him from all over the place, that, yeah, he's, a personality. And, if you want to use the diva term on him, that's fine. But he also is a tireless worker. And, Derek Carr has talked repeatedly about how many times, like, Antonio Brown just wouldn't leave him alone because he wants to go catch passes and run routes with him throughout the offseason. So, yeah, that is what's out there about Antonio Brown. And I think you're seeing that on display, whether you want to look at that as reality all the time or else that's, what was cut into the show and how it was edited. But I think that's certainly a takeaway from the first episode.